Cool. So what does your role look like now as the Chief Innovation Officer at Ohio State? Were you the first person in that role, or was that role already existing?
So yeah, and it's at the College of Nursing. Yeah. I'm the first person, as far as we know, in academic nursing to have that role in the world, and still the only one. That's a statistic that we are desperately trying to change, because we've been able to see the impact of my position, and would love for that to be replicated, not just in colleges of nursing around the world, but all the health sciences and engineering and business, and really having someone who's in charge of democratizing innovation within their system. So, higher education is set up beautifully for licensing technologies out. But what we don't have an infrastructure for yet, or what most don't, I would argue that Ohio State does now based off of our work, is how to pull ideas from those people at the front lines who aren't incredibly well funded. They don't have a research lab or grants from the NIH or NSF. They're not getting SBIR, STTR grants for their work. What can we do to help these people get their ideas off the ground from the start? And we like to think of, the tech commercialization pathway as a tornado, which sounds a little chaotic, but if you think of it as a funnel cloud of the tornado, at the very top you're getting some good ideas that are starting to come in, and by the time that tornado touches down, maybe you have one or two startups to spin out. The work that I do, or that I think happens above that tornado, and the power of all tornadoes is in the supercell that is above the clouds. You can't see it, but for thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of feet, there's chaos and collisions occurring. And that's where we want to play, is making those collisions occur between our students, faculty, and staff, our community, allowing people to recognize the problems that exist, and then encourage and empower them to solve them, while also giving them what we call inspirational capital. So that's grants, in terms of money that they can use towards their ideas. It's access to 3D printers. It's access to any other types of prototyping tools and people who can help them. But we find that the most impactful method of inspirational capital is this one-on-one conversation where you're sitting down with your team and taking that entrepreneurial viewpoint of saying, hey, Jason, we believe in you. We believe in the ideas that you're bringing forward. We know that you're not going to hit a home run every time, but that doesn't mean we're going to take you out of the lineup. We want you to step up to the plate and take as many swings as you can, because you are incredibly valuable to our organization, and we know that together we can change the world. So that's the main role of my spot as the Chief Innovation Officer, is democratizing innovation and developing not a culture of innovation, but a structure of innovation within an organization. The culture is the byproduct of that structure that we create.
Yeah, that makes really good sense. And you've done this by creating an innovation studio, right? So that maker space that has 3D printers and laser printers and all sorts of cool stuff helps gets people excited about it. It gets the juices flowing, so to speak, and I'm sure it develops a lot of connections too as people start to use that space. Love for you to share some information about the innovation studio. What led you to create that?
Yeah. Innovation Studio actually came from my experience that we just talked about of trying to commercialize that platform, that software platform. Because when I disclosed that to our tech commercialization office, I was I'd been a student at Ohio State 6-7 years earlier, and was just in awe of the machine and the capacity and all these great things that Ohio State could do. So I had a little bit of inflated views about what would happen when I came to them with what I thought was an exceptional idea. I thought they'd pull the confetti bag and horns would go off and they'd say, this is our next billion-dollar company. And that's not the case, and nor should it have been. But then that led me to think, okay, I'm a manager, and then as I kept working on this as an executive director at this university, and I'm still struggling to figure out what are the resources that are available to me, who can help me along this idea, what is the network that exists. There's 60,000 faculty and staff at this university. How do I find the people who can help me, who can write code, who have empathy for the problem that I'm trying to solve, and that those things didn't exist. So what we wanted to do was create that virtual spot, or that literal spot, where you could plant your flag in the sand and say, all right, this is where you go when you have an idea and you don't know where to begin. And that's the Innovation Studio.